Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Tee&D and I am here for another character build. In this case, it's actually going to be my first duo character build. I've got two character sheets up, and we're gonna make a duo character build. This will also be kind of my first like quickie build. I think this is a build that a lot of people understand works, but I want to just math it out real quick and get it up and running and show you just how well it works, just how soon, because it's kind of nutty, just how powerful this is, how early in the game. And I also want to utilize that beautiful DPR calculator that we found. Thank you, LudicSavant, on the Giant IDP forums. Honestly, I'm going to take a second to shout out LudicSavant for a sec. LudicSavant is probably the first optimized characters that I've ever read. There's this forum thread on Giant in the Playground that is called a fun and eclectic collection of unique and effective builds, or something like that. And I've studied those builds religiously. The straight class Ride of the Valkyries Paladin is fucking dope. It was the first time I was exposed to the Nuclear Wizard, and these are all LudicSavant's builds, and the thread goes on, and there are a bunch of other people adding builds, but the Savant ones, the ones by Ludic, are the best. So being able to use LudicSavant's damage calculator is really nice and really cool. So I'm going to pull that up as well. All right, there we go. And I'm going to have to undo all the options that I've done for my last build, but that's okay. So, I'm going to name this character. We're going to have two characters. This is going to be a duo build, and it doesn't fully require two characters to be very strong, but to make it maximally powerful, it requires two characters because we need two concentration spells and an interaction between them in order to reach big buko monster damage, and so we would like to do that. I'm going to name this one Sarah, and I'm going to name this one Jim. And anyone who's played StarCraft might be able to see where we're going. Also, I think I'm going to title this build The Zergling Rush, so you might be able to see where we're going with this. This is Sarah Kerrigan, and this is Jim Raynor, and they are going to be a team in this version of reality. But Sarah over here is going to be the Queen of Blades. Yes, this is going to be a StarCraft-themed build, and it seems very fun to me. And our entire strategy is going to be built around the Zergling Rush. And that's probably the name of this build, is the Zergling Rush duo build, and let's get started. Neither of these characters is it terribly important for us to choose a particular race. It just doesn't matter, so I'm going to choose races for thematic reasons instead. Stats, however, we're going to choose for purely mechanical reasons. And classes we're also going to choose for mechanical reasons. Jim Raynor is not going to be a fighter of sorts. He is instead going to be a cleric. He is going to be a cleric, and specifically he is going to be a war domain cleric. Boom, which actually does kind of track. Wonderful. That's going to be him. And Sarah Kerrigan is going to be a druid, and she is going to, well, she's not going to be any kind of druid right now, just a druid. For proficiencies and backgrounds, it doesn't particularly matter. On the druid, I'm going to grab Hermit with Alchemist Supplies. The cleric, I'm going to grab Sailor, because it gives athletics and perception, and those are very nice. And also, it kind of makes sense for Jim Raynor. Maybe Soldier would make more sense. And just for my purposes for this build, this is not something you necessarily have to do. Choose whatever race you want whenever you make this build. Just for me, I'm going to make both of them humans, and specifically variant humans, although there is not a feat that we need at level 1. There are some that are nice, and so we're going to take one of those. And Sarah is going to take the feat Resilient Constitution or Warcaster. Either one works, but I'll take the Resilient Con for the +1 to Con because it's nice at level 1 to have more health. And is going to take Proficiency in Stealth. As far as ability scores, I'll figure that out in a minute. Languages, we'll say Abyssal is the closest to Zerg, so we're going to take Abyssal. As far as Jim Raynor, he will also speak the Abyssal. He'll probably take Warcaster. It's more important for Raynor to take Warcaster. So we're going to take Warcaster on Jim. And we will bump our ability scores in a second, but we will also take that sweet, sweet stealth proficiency, because neither of us are going to be great at it, so it would be nice if we were a little bit better at it. Equipment. Cleric starting gets a Warhammer and gets the Chainmail because proficient. Also gets a shield and a holy symbol. Nice. Our War Cleric has proficiency with martial weapons and heavy armor. Lovely. And whenever we use the attack action, we can expend one of our uses of War Priest up to our Wisdom modifier a couple of times per day and make one weapon attack as a bonus action. So already pretty good action economy from the cleric side of things. Not bad at all. Let's grab some proficiencies. I don't really care. Medicine and Insight are most valuable for our skills. And for the druid, we're going to grab that wooden shield The simple melee weapon we will grab will be a quarterstaff, and the druidic focus that we grab will be a wooden staff. And we're going to use it's the same thing for the both of them, right? But most of the time, we're probably going to have our stick away. We're going to put it away because we need to be casting spells. We will wear that shite leather armor and our shield and our quarterstaff, and that's good for us. Now for starting ability scores, we are going to, not manual roll, we're going to do point buy for both of these characters, and we're going to dump strength on the druid. We would love to have 14 dex on the druid. We would love to have an uneven score in constitution, and we need a 15 wisdom. We've got 2 more points to mess with. Maybe we put them and round out our intelligence to be flat at least. That seems good to me. Actually, can I put 2 points? And yeah, I can. Okay, I can make the dex a 15. That's good. So we'll bump wisdom and dexterity, and then we'll use our resilient con to bump our con, and we'll start with a 16, 16, 16. Lovely. So we will bump dexterity and wisdom, and our constitution will be bumped by the feat that we took, and we can click on our character sheet and we're good to go. Same thing over here, point buying. However, we are going to take maxed out 15 strength, we're going to take maxed out 15 constitution, and maxed out 15 wisdom. And in this case, we don't get the +1 con from that because we're taking Warcaster instead. It's up to you. You don't have to take Warcaster. You could also ditch the shield and have more con and still be pretty survivable and use the Warhammer two-handed. Totally up to you. You can do that. But then we are once again going to bump our strength, and we are going to bump our wisdom on the cleric side of things. The cleric actually doesn't need much wisdom, just needs 13 for the cleric class, and is going to be straight class cleric, so it doesn't even necessarily need that. Can just be strength-based, but I'd rather have the wisdom and the con and all that other stuff for this character. And character sheets. Great, we did it. So our damage is pretty shite at this round. Oh, I have to choose spells. Gosh darn it. Take whatever you'd like at first level. I think on the druid, we should take Shalach and Thornwhip, as well as grabbing Fairy Fire as a concentration option, and Healing Word as a ranged heal, and perhaps something like Absorb Elements for survivability, and perhaps something like Goodberry for more survivability. Nice. As for Jim Raynor, he's going to take some cleric spells. Already gets Divine Favor and Shield of Faith, which is nice, but not super amazing. Going to take that Guidance. Going to take Toll the Dead for a ranged damage option. And going to take Mending for utility, or Light, or whatever. We don't have Dark Vision. Both of us are going to have Healing Word prepared. I'm going to take Guiding Bolt as a ranged damage option with also some benefits. And we're going to take Bless, because it's amazing. And beyond that, whatever you prefer, maybe Command is one of my favorite first level cleric spells. Both of us have limited spell slots, but our combat will look like this. On our first round, probably, our cleric will use an action to cast Bless, and we'll put Bless on themselves and one more party member and the druid. The druid will use an action to cast Fairy Fire, and hope that the creatures that it catches within that radius fail their saving throws, and hopefully grant advantage. So, best case scenario for our 2 party members, on the next turn, the damage that they will deal will be the 1 shillelagh hit from the druid, and 2 Warhammer hits from the cleric with Bless on top and advantage. So, let's check that out. Our attack bonus for all of them is +5. So, attack bonus +5. Target AC will say Orcs at 13 armor class. The number of attacks, we'll do the cleric first. The cleric makes 2 attacks. Each of those attacks deals 1d8 plus 3. And we're at a 13 armor class, and we have advantage assumed from the Fairy Fire, so we expect 14 damage from the cleric. And the druid gets to make 1 bonk at 1d8 plus 3 with their shillelagh. So it's just 1, and it should be exactly half of that, with still advantage for themselves. And at 13, it's almost exactly half of that. It's 7.26. So a total average expected of 21 damage against the 13 armor class, scaling off pretty heavily against higher armor classes. not shabby for 2 characters at level 1, dealing 21 damage. The 14 coming out of the cleric is most of the damage that's coming out of our characters, and it's not amazing. We admit this. We understand this. Oh, bless! 1d4. I forgot about that. 7.5 from the druid, and with the 2 attacks, 15 from the cleric. So 22.5 total. Not too shabby, but not amazing. This is not why we're here. Not yet. So, now that we've done and seen where we're at level 1, let's continue moving along. Oh, I forgot druid proficiencies. It doesn't matter to me. Insight and perception. Nice. Cool. Let's move toward level 3. Not a ton is going to change at level 3, but at least some good options will pop up for us. So I'm going to jump both our characters there. And again, we're going to go quickie. We got Guided Strike to hit much more accurately and turn undead, of course, as well as second level cleric spells. And then on our druid side, we are going to, at second level, grab our druid circle, which is going to be Path of the Shepherd. We get Speech of the Woods, we can talk to beasts, and we get Spirit Totems. As a bonus action, we can create a 30-foot aura radius around a totem, and it has different effects for a minute. We can move it around as a bonus action every time, and we only get 1 per long rest, or per short or long rest. The Bear Spirit grants Might and Endurance. Each creature gains 10 hit points equal to 5 plus your Druid level, and you and your allies gain advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws. Nice. The Hawk lets you reaction add advantage to 1 creature's attack roll within the aura, because you only have 1 reaction. And the Unicorn grants advantage on ability checks to detect creatures, and in addition, any healing that you do heals every creature in the aura with hit points equal to your Druid level, which is pretty neat. All these things are cool. The Bear is the most cool of them, and it is quite cool. Now, for second level spells, the Druid is going to grab Summon Beast, and the Cleric is going to grab... Well, they all automatically get Spiritual Weapon, which is their best bonus action damage per round that they could get. It doesn't really matter what the cleric grabs, actually. Whatever you want. They have Spiritual Weapon. It's fine. Anything else is good. Prep whatever cleric spells you like. Doesn't matter. Our DP round changes slightly. The cleric will now probably, instead of using their war priest thing, probably pull up a spiritual weapon on their second turn and use that as their bonus action every turn to apply 1d8 plus 3 also damage. I guess it's about the same as using the war priest with the bonus action, but, you know, it's different and kind of better. But it's still the same to hit, so our damage didn't change on that front. However, we do get to add the summoned beast into our dealio, and that summoned beast has a bunch of hit points and is probably a beast of the land and will have pack tactics, so we'll have advantage on its attack even if we don't fairy fire, and we'll be dealing another 1d8 plus 4 plus the spell's level, so 1d8 plus 6 piercing damage at advantage to 1 target. Nice. This changes our damage a good bit. It's nice. It's quite nice, actually. Our druid can continue bonking with shillelagh. Our cleric can continue bonking with warhammers and or their spiritual weapon, which is probably also a warhammer. Great. This is good. This is solid. This is nothing terribly special at level 3. I'm not even going to calculate it because we just added 1 more attack with advantage, and it's going to be like 7.5 average additional damage. Maybe a little bit more because it's a little bit more flat damage on the Summon Beast, but nothing too fancy. Let's move to level 5. Level 5 is where we take off, and it's where our features really come together. Boom. Cleric level 5. We get an ASI. Let me check. I think at Cleric level 5, we're just going to bump the Cleric's strength because, again, we don't really care about our wisdom too much. Just dealing some more damage would be very nice for us. Also, if we want to, we can always create bonfire, have our cleric grapple and throw things into the bonfire, or spike growth, have our cleric grapple and drag things along in the spike growth. The cleric is a pretty effective grappler, what with athletics proficiency and pretty high strength, so you can do that, absolutely. But on the other hand, the druid is going to take the warcaster feat at this level. Boom. And on the other side, actually, maybe instead of bumping their strength, maybe the cleric actually goes ahead and takes Resilient Con. And they just trade off which ones they had at early levels. So they'll grab the Resilient Con, buff out their constitution, get more hit points, and also their con saving throws, which is more important. So now both of them have Warcaster and can cast with a shield and a weapon, and there's no problem. We're set. At this level, we get 3rd level Druid and Cleric spells respectively, and we're here for one spell and one spell only, and it is the core of our build, and it is Conjure Animals, and we'll talk about it in a second. Actually, we'll talk about it now. So, you summon Fey Spirits that take on the form of beasts and blah, blah, blah. You choose one of the following options for what appears. 1 beast of challenge rating 2 or lower, 2 beasts of challenge rating 1 or lower, 4 beasts of challenge rating 1/2 or lower, or 8 beasts of challenge rating 1/4 or lower. It's not specific in the spell who chooses which creatures appear. The erratas, the sage advice is that the DM gets to choose which creatures appear. You just choose which category of creatures you want. But I'd say it's usually going to be up to your table. The thing about this is we're always going to summon the 8 beasts of challenge rating 1/4 or lower, almost always. If your DM is nice about this, if you have a lenient DM, you can choose exactly what you want to summon. And if you talk to your DM and say, like, this is the core concept of my character, please let me do the thing that I want to do here, even though it's a little bit powerful. It's the way that my character works. And if they won't do it, here are a couple of other options that I think are good. Wolves are pretty good. They get peck tactics, and their bites cause a strength saving throw or they knock prone. They also deal pretty good damage. Flying snakes are really good. They deal 1 piercing damage and 3d4 of poison damage, which is really good. And if you can get 8 of them flying around with flyby, they're great. They're really not very healthy, but they are very powerful in terms of damage rolls. And giant poisonous snakes similarly deal a bunch of damage, but it is gated behind a constitution saving throw. Still, a lot of them are going to hit, and a lot of those creatures are going to fail their con saves, and they've got some reach, and they've got pretty good hit points. So all of those are viable options for you at a CR 1/4, which is what we're always going to choose. However, if you're able to talk to your DM, and I highly recommend talking to your DM about this beforehand, although you probably want to bring this out as a whip-out surprise thing, getting to make sure that it's going to work the way that you want it to work is really important. So talk to your DM and talk to them about your character, your duo character concept for whatever one-shot you're running this in, how you're trying to be Sarah Kerrigan and Jim Raynor, and you really want Zerglings. And what you really, really want to do is going to require our combat report. But let's take a dip into Cleric for a second to grab the crucial Cleric spell that also comes online at this level and is prepared for free every day because it is, of course, Crusader's Mantle. Holy power radiates from you in an aura with a 30-foot radius, total of 60 feet circle. This is fucking awesome. Awakening boldness in friendly creatures. Until the spell ends, the aura moves with you, centered on you, while in the aura, each non-hostile creature in the aura, including you, deals an extra 1d4 radiant damage when it hits with a weapon attack, which is essentially any attack roll. Any physically attack roll. Oh boy. Let's look at our character sheets really quick. So, here is what we are going to do. At the beginning of combat, our cleric is going to use their action to cast the concentration spell, Crusader's Mantle. And they will create a 60-foot total diameter aura of magical goodness that gives a 1d4 extra radiant damage to all allied creatures. So your entire party gets 1d4 of damage. Nice. Your druid gets 1d4 of damage. Nice. And your cleric also gets 1d4 of damage. Nice. We had a first level spell that did that before. It's Divine Favor. It just gives the cleric that. It's okay. Now it's way better. It applies to all your friends. It's a big party. And after our cleric does that, or before, I mean, the druid is more likely to go first because it's got a higher dex. The druid is going to cast Conjure Animals, and they are going to summon 8 beasts of challenge rating 1/4 or lower, and I have a strong recommendation for precisely what beast you should choose. Now, of course, there are lots of little options. The flying snake, the poisonous snake, all of these things are really good. They're all great. Yippee-ki-yay. Oh, no, not the giant poisonous snake. Sorry, the poisonous snake. The flying snake is probably the best option that's listed here. You could also grab, like, ponies or elk or something and have them run around and explode things with charge attacks. But what I'm going to recommend is that you grab Zerglings. This is the Velociraptor from Tomb of Annihilation. It is a printed monster in the monster manual. It has a challenge rating of 1/4, qualifying it for grabbing 8 creatures. 13 armor class, 10 hit points. Meh. +2 to its primary attacking stat, its dexterity. It is a tiny beast, which is actually quite useful and quite interesting for fitting a bunch of them into surface area. Anybody who knows StarCraft knows that it's extremely important to maneuver your creatures, your monsters, your mobs, your units, so that they approach good surface area on enemies and can all attack together. And it's great because we can fit 2 of them in a surface on each 5-foot square because they're tiny. Super nice. The Velociraptor has pack tactics, meaning that it has advantage on an attack roll against a creature if at least one of the Velociraptor's allies is within 5 feet, and it makes melee weapon attacks. Great. And it has multi-attack. It makes 2 of them, one with its bite and one with its claws. And if there's another Velociraptor next to it, it makes both of those attacks with advantage. The bite is 1d6 plus 2 with plus 4 to hit. The claws are 1d4 plus 2 with plus 4 to hit. And this is our blender for the day. So we are going to summon 8 Velociraptors. And we're going to have them surround whatever enemies are on the field in pairs of 2 so that they maintain pack tactics and have guaranteed advantage for each other. And we are going to ensure that they are experiencing the aura of Crusader's Mantle, adding an extra d4 to every single attack that they make. And they are each going to make 2 attacks with advantage, for a total of 8 bite attacks, each dealing 1d6 plus 2 plus 1d4, and 8 claw attacks, dealing 1d4 plus 2 plus 1d4, for a whole lot of damage. Give me a second to LudicSavantly calculate all of this damage, because it's a lot. We'll do 8 attacks at the 1d6 plus 2, and each of them deals 1d4 as well. So each of them deals 1d6 plus 1d4 plus 2 because of the radiance. And on that whole set of bite attacks that they make, their 8 bite attacks that they make, against a 13 armor class, with advantage because they all have pack tactics, our Velociraptors pump 63.64 average expected damage into that creature. And then they make their claw attacks. So they make 8 attacks. Each one is 1d4 plus 1d4 plus 2. So that's 2d4, no d6s. I'm sorry, I still have bless on. I apologize. That number is wrong. Thank you, me, for figuring that out. So the first number is lower because it's not bless. I fucked it up. It's still 58.4. 58.4 on all the bite attacks. And then 2d4 plus 2 for each of the claw attacks. No d6s. And against the 13 AC, that's 50.94 damage. So about 51. So it's about 58 plus 51 is 109 expected average points of damage. Also, our cleric on future turns can still whack things and then whack them again, either with a spiritual weapon or their stick, their warhammer, for the same as before, like 14-ish average damage, right around there. And our druid can whack things once with their shillelagh if they get up in melee, for an expected about 7 damage. So we can add those like 20-ish additional damage just from our normal creatures bonking things. And both of those go up a little bit because the d4s onto that 109, but mostly I'm just going to calculate the raptors, the Zergling rush. So this looks a lot like StarCraft. You summon 8 Zerglings, and they maul the shit out of everything using the holy aura of Jim Raynor to improve their damaging power. At level 5, 109 damage is bullshit. It's bullshit. There are not CR5 creatures that survive this for more than 1 round. There just aren't. You eviscerate fights. You brutalize bad guys. This is bad. Sarah Kerrigan is fully the Queen of Blades, and Jim Raynor is her boyfriend, who is just like adding damage to all that shit, and it's sick. It gets sicker. It gets more fucked up. Now, to be clear, our cleric is not going to scale any differently than this. There's no other feature that adds that kind of damage to that many creatures in an aura like that. They're just going to keep casting Crusader's Mantle. They could multi-class out of cleric, take fighter for the rest of their levels, and deal more damage on their own. Who cares? I don't care what they do. As long as they're concentrating on that spell, I just don't care. What does matter is the at higher levels situation of the Conjure Animals spell. At higher levels, when you cast the spell using a certain higher level spell slots, you choose one of the summoning options above, and more creatures appear. Twice as many with a 5th level spell slot, 3 times as many with a 7th level spell slot, and 4 times as many with a 9th level spell slot. So at character at level 9, when we get 5th level spells, we instead have 16 Velociraptors, or Zerglings, and they make 16 bite attacks. and 16 claw attacks. And let me just math that really quickly. I just have to switch this to 16 attacks instead of the other thing. Each still doing 2d4 plus 4 for all the claws. Against those 13 AC targets, that's 102 damage-ish. And 1d4 plus 1d6, 116 damage. So at a level 9 character, our total damage expected against an AC 13 creature is 218, which is exactly double our 109, which is what we'd expect. Against higher AC creatures, it does fall off. It's like 98 from the claws, or from the bites, and probably something a little bit less than that from the claws. Still almost 200 damage per round. Of course, when we get to I think a 13th level character, and we can summon 3 times as many creatures. Yep. So that's 24 Velociraptors. And at a 9th level spell slot, our most powerful spell, when other characters are casting Wish, we're not casting Wish very much. Instead, we are summoning 32 Velociraptors. And at a 17th level character, summoning 32 Velociraptors, we are dealing an assumed... I mean, it would be double this. It would be 218 times 2 is 436 damage. Expected average to an AC of 13. Obviously scaling off at higher ACs. That's some bullshit. So, I'm not even building out through this build. This is just a simple, particular interaction between 2 very powerful concentration spells that leads to utterly absurd damage. And most of the absurdity of the damage doesn't come from the extra d4s of Crusader's Mantle. They don't really add that much. I mean, they add a lot, but they don't really add that much. You can fully do this on your own, just be the single druid who is the Queen of Blades and summons a bunch of Zerglings, and Zergling rush the fuck out of creatures. I think in the future they should errata out Velociraptors. They're too strong for a CR 1/4 beast. They should be one half or something, give them a few more hit points and make them a little bit better. They shouldn't have 2 attacks at this level and pack tactics. It's broken, and we're gonna take it all the way to the bank. And so that's what we've done in this build. This deals absolutely obscene damage to anything and is just a shredder. It's just a Velociraptor Zergling Rush blender of pain. And that's really fun. I think it's really cool. So that's my build for the day. Again, a quickie and a duo, and probably interesting, hopefully interesting. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you've enjoyed this as well. You can check out all my links down in the description, and I will see you the next time that I decide to do one of these builds. Thanks so much. See you next time. Peace.